Hello, Chemistry and Society classmates. My name is Kelly, and I've been asked to present on the effects of ozone depletion on skin cancer. Our ozone is very important to everyone's lives, and unfortunately most of us don't even know what the ozone is or what it's used for. The ozone depleting affects everyone and everything on Earth, which is why it is important for us to learn about what the ozone is and how it affects our lives. The ozone molecule is composed of 3 oxygen atoms connected by a 1.5 bond between them. It's a resonance structure. Our atmosphere is composed of 4 different layers: the troposphere, the stratosphere, the mesosphere, and the thermosphere. Our ozone is contained within the lower layer of the stratosphere. The purpose of our ozone is to be a shield or a protective barrier between us and UV radiation, or because the ozone layer absorbs 97 to 99% of the harmful UV rays that the sun will emit. Our ozone layer is maintained through a process that we discussed in class, known as the Chapman cycle. The Chapman cycle is a natural process where ozone is constantly being created and destroyed, and it is as follows. An oxygen molecule comes into contact with a photon of light that is 242 nanometers in energy or less, and that will create 2 oxygen free radicals. These free radicals are highly reactive and will react with everything it comes into contact with. So that free radical will then come into contact with another oxygen molecule, which will in turn create our ozone. Ozone can then be destroyed by coming into contact with another photon of light of 320 nanometers or less, and then from there that will create an oxygen molecule and an ozone free radical. Ozone can also be destroyed by coming into contact with another oxygen free radical, which will then create 2 oxygen molecules. Unfortunately, our highly important ozone, as I've said already, is being depleted and damaged through the release of man-made compounds known as chlorofluorocarbons. These chlorofluorocarbons are extremely inert and stable, which is exactly why we decided to use them in the first place for things such as cleaning agents, coolants in refrigerators, packing materials, air conditionings, and aerosol spray cans. But because they're so inert and stable, they make their way up to our stratosphere, and within the ozone, they are able to come into contact with a photon of light that is able to break apart this strong bond between chlorine and its molecule and break it, so then you're left with a chlorine-free radical. This chlorine-free radical is then able to break down thousands of ozone molecules because it's considered I lost my train of thought. It's considered a catalyst within the reaction because it's neither created nor destroyed within the reaction. It actually ends up canceling itself out at the end of it all. So it just will continue to break down ozone molecules. Due to this decrease in the Earth's ozone, it has resulted in a significant increase in UV radiation, and the main consequence is that UV radiation then in turn it causes genetic mutation and then leads to skin cancer. So this graph here shows the extra cases of skin cancer that are related to UV radiation that will occur from 2000, which it doesn't look like very much, to 2060, where there's a ton of skin cancer related cases to UV radiation. And that UV radiation skin cancer cases are not just in one particular area, it's all over the world. But we do see a lot here in Australia. I will point that out. So, skin cancer occurs when an error or a mutation occurs within the DNA of skin cells. This DNA then starts to replicate and the cells continue to grow and form a mass of cancer cells. So the damage to DNA is mainly the result of UV radiation, like I've said before, but this is from either the sun or tanning beds. So ultraviolet radiation then exists in 3 different types. So there's UVA, UVB, and UVC. Pretty simple. UVC is a lethal radiation and is emitted at very low wavelengths. However, we're lucky UVC is completely absorbed by both ozone molecules and oxygen molecules. UVA is the most common UV radiation, and it is because it penetrates the most through the ozone layer. It accounts for up to 95% of the UV radiation that reaches Earth, and excessive exposure to UVA, so excessive exposure to the sun in general, will in turn may lead to the initiation of skin cancer. So what's left is UVB, and UVB it can differ in strength just depending on your season, your location, or the time of day. UVB is the main cause that will cause sunburns and damage to the outer layers of your skin. As you can see here, UVB will damage the outer layers of the epidermis, where UVA damages the deepest inner layers of your epidermis. So who's at risk? This may seem pretty simple and of like who's at risk and why we should protect ourselves. However, we don't think of this every day when we walk outside, so like we need to start thinking of this. So those with pale skin or fair skin are at risk. If you have a history of sunburns, it increases your risk. If you're exposed to the sun at an excessive amount, your risk increases. If you live in a sunny climate, if you have moles or skin lesions, if you have a family history of skin cancer, a weakened immune system, or you're exposed to radiation, those all increase your risks of having skin cancer or getting skin cancer. So right here is exactly why I say that you should protect yourself. This is a picture of me on a trip I went to Belize. We went fishing on the ocean and I did not protect myself properly, which led to a very bad sunburn. I kind of look like a rainbow there. So, and I did not think that the sun was going to be that bad, but because I was in a different area of the world, I should have protected myself better. So to protect yourself, we should find the shade if possible, and if not, you should probably cover up, wear sunglasses, wear sunscreen of course, but we got to make sure that we wear a broad spectrum sunscreen. So read your sunscreen bottle, make sure that it blocks against both UVA and UVB rays, whereas some only block against UVB rays. Avoid tanning beds, of course. Those are just increasing your risk. And visit your doctor regularly. By doing all these things, of course, you're just decreasing your chance of getting skin cancer. But make sure you protect yourself. It's important. So as I showed before in the graph, in Australia, the risks of skin cancer are high, and this is because their ozone layer has decreased by 5 to 9%, and skin cancer there accounts for 80% of the diagnosed cancers. This is 2 times the rate of Canada, the US, and the UK, and 95 to 99% of the diagnosed skin cancers are due to excessive sun exposure. If I lived in Australia, I'd of course want to be out in the sun, but they just have to take extra precautions because of their decreased ozone and their beautiful weather. Just they need to protect themselves better to lower their risk of developing skin cancer. That's my presentation. If you have any questions or comments, please leave it for me in Nexus. Thanks.